Welcome once again to another episode of the United States of a Movie podcast. We're the podcast that makes Monday the fun day because we sit down and try to figure out and answer an impossible question. The question being, can you define every state in the United States by just one movie? No, not really, but we definitely try to, and it's a great conversation. It's definitely a conversation that I can't do alone. I may be a gargantuan movie fan, I may have hosted movie shows on Cinemax and HBO, but they're also my passion, as is the passion for my great and amazing co-host. Let's welcome them to the show, Ryan Sandler. Welcome back, buddy.
Oh man, this was after a tumultuous week. It was so refreshing to be able to watch these three incredible films. Only one of them made me cry, though, and you're not going to know which one.
Oh, we know exactly which one. White House Down for sure.
Damn it!
Because it ended. And of course, let's welcome our another co-host as well, Will Hirsch, back to the show. Welcome, buddy.
Thanks for having me, and let me put you guys at ease. I am definitely not secretly an undercover Russian agent. All right, I know these rumors have been flying around. But I definitely, it's totally not me.
Huh. That's exactly what an undercover rogue agent would say.
It's exactly.
Oh, wait.
Exactly.
Wait, my video wasn't on, was it? You didn't catch me winking.
But your full name isn't Wilhelm, is it?
Oh, I gotta go, guys. You're great being here.
You right there, buddy? Yeah, so by the way, spoiler alert for some of the movies that are coming this particular way. But also, I really want to get into this week's movies. Let's just get done with the intro and get right to the meat and potatoes of it all. Because this week, we're doing kind of a special episode. Because last week we did Washington State, but we would be remiss if we didn't recognize the District of Columbia, Washington, D.C. It's not a state, but it is definitely somewhere that basically every other movie in America is made about. And there were some bangers that we could bring to the table, and we honestly ended up bringing I got done with these movies within 2 days.
Yeah.
You know, I was basically on Sunday, I was already 75% done with our movies because I couldn't wait to get into them. So let's start with the movie.
I couldn't wait to watch them. I couldn't wait to watch these three.
Either. I'm in such a good mood about this week's movies. I can't wait to talk about them. So the movie that I brought to the table, I knew this is another one of those movies that I talked to you guys about, that when I was thinking about an idea for a podcast, and when this one kind of came into my head, this was another one of those ones that I'm thinking, oh, it just defines this place to me. It's that movie that makes me think Washington, D.C. I brought 1987's No Way Out, directed by Roger Donaldson, much like Dante's Peak last week. But I was just so looking forward to doing this movie. When I mentioned DC, Will immediately mentioned it as well. So I was a little like, oh man, I kind of wanted to introduce someone to this movie. But Ryan, you'd never seen this movie, right?
No, I'd never. No, it was way before. Well, not way, but it was before my time. And man, what a thriller! This was a great one.
It defines thriller, doesn't it? That's the way I always think about it. The first time I saw it, VHS at boarding school, edge of my seat stuff, and it keeps going and it keeps going, and then you get the last 5 minutes and go, what?
Yeah, it's got a Shyamalan twist, ladies and gentlemen.
It does. Yeah. It's got a Sixth Sensian twist.
He was Kevin Costner the whole time.
Yeah.
But Will, you'd seen this movie before, right?
Yes, I saw this. I forget when I saw this. I think about 10 years ago. But same thing. Somebody just had mentioned the movie and just mentioned the plot, and they were like, "Just go ahead and watch it." I had no idea what I was in for, and you know, I would even say it's one of those movies where the first hour is engaging, but you're also kind of like, this doesn't feel quite like a thriller. Like what, you know? It feels almost like, okay, this is another kind of love triangle-y movie. And then you're off the rails and you're just like the entire movie, you're like, oh my God, how is this going to play out? It keeps getting crazier and crazier.
And I will say to the listeners at home, if you have not seen this movie, 100% go in blind. Don't do any research on it, because the entire movie unfolding itself is just worth the price of admission.
I'll tell you what is that, why don't we talk about the movie without the last 5 minutes until we can give a spoiler alert, because irrelevant of the last 5 minutes, it is still
God.
one of the best Pentagon DC thrillers I've ever seen. Like the little cherry on the top is that twist at the end, but it doesn't change the movie when you watch it the first time. But Ryan, I will tell you this much, and Will and I really got into this over text. We had our own little private text thread.
Yes.
You know, when you get that cherry on top and you rewatch the movie, it's
Good point.
all there.
I was thinking about that in our text thread that you kicked me out of, apparently. And I was going, because I had just finished watching it, and I go back, I'm like, oh yeah, these kind of, it becomes an entirely different film. Like it doesn't, like it makes it like infinitely rewatchable because of it.
Yes, that's
cool.
Yeah.
Not a lot of movies can do that.
It doesn't change the film, but it does completely change the film. So what we'll do is we'll give you the plot as it's presented to us, which is essentially Kevin Costner. He's a naval intelligence officer. He kind of like ends up meeting Sean Young at a DC party. His old college friend Will Patton is kind of trying to introduce him to Gene Hackman, who's the Secretary of Defense. And what ends up happening is Kevin Costner ends up working for the Secretary of Defense, who is also, by the way, sleeping with Sean Young, who Kevin Costner has fallen in love with, which creates this whole thing, which kicks off when Gene Hackman, in a fit of jealousy, kills Sean Young, tries to cover it up, but Kevin Costner is the one investigating himself.
Yes.
Fascinating premise.
Yeah.
I think tip top. It's actually based off a 1946 novel called The Big Clock, but this to me is the definitive thriller. I think it's the one that for me is just, it is it.
And you're not saying that because there's a submarine in theory in this movie, right? Just to
there is
to make sure. There is a phantom submarine.
Dude, it is the exact plot of
But you never see it.
October from the Other Side for a minute.
And on that submarine, there's a phantom AI thing called Dead Reckoning Part 1, which ties into the movie. You get it.
And then and Brad Pitt is in this movie.
He is in this movie.
I've seen this movie maybe like 30 times, and Will knows this movie, and we were nerding out, and it was Ryan the one that spotted him. We'll get back to that. There's a lot to talk about with this movie, because we got some other great movies. Ryan, talk to me about your choice.
Oh man, I don't know what it is.
Movies.
We randomly like brought this movie up. I think, Ollie, when you first talked about this podcast to me in person 100 years ago, we were talking about different states and different movies, and I mentioned this one because it's such like a usually in the pantheon of DC, Washington DC movies, they're all usually political thrillers, right? And this is the only one that is not that. And I remember when I was a kid and I saw this movie, and I still love it, and I haven't seen it forever, but I picked, it was 1993, right? 93, a movie called Dave,
directed by Ivan Reitman.
Ivan Reitman, yeah.
Of Ghostbusters fame, and things like that, starring Kevin Kline, legend, Sigourney Weaver, legend, Frank Langella, legend, Ving Rhames, Kevin Dunn, Ben Kingsley. I mean, look at that cast to begin with.
It's insane.
But it is the most refreshing bloody DC movie ever. I remember seeing the trailer. I remember seeing the trailer for that moment with the robotic arms. I once caught it this big. And it is a treasured movie for me. I watch it all the time. I own No Way Out, I own Dave, and I own the other movie that's on this list. And I rewatch them frequently to just make me feel certain kind of way. But Dave, what a treasure. And Will, correct me if I'm wrong, you'd never seen Dave, right?
Yeah, this is my first watch of it, and man, I enjoyed every moment of it. This was like, you're exactly right. It was just so refreshing to watch, and it's so refreshing to watch a DC movie because DC being what it is, that is just so cynical, so like the system is corrupt and stuff. And this doesn't shy away from the corruption.
No. It's got the corruption.
It's so weirdly prescient too, like watching it currently.
Right.
I was like, oh no, these things are happening now.
So but it's just that just a nice person that wants to do good turns up in this situation, and this is the effect.
Yeah, this is the movie asks the question of like, what if the president was a nice guy?
Yeah.
And it like shifts the entire power dynamic in Washington. you know?
Right. It's someone that doesn't owe anyone in Washington anything.
Yeah.
It's someone that just has the power to do something good, and they're a nice guy. So if you don't know the premise of Dave, it's a cracking premise. It's that Kevin Kline plays a lookalike to Kevin Kline. So Kevin Kline is the president, but Kevin Kline is also Dave, a guy that looks just like the president, that likes to do appearances. He like opens car lots and things like that. While at the same, that's something that he does like in his spare time because he gets people's jobs. That's what he does. Yeah. He works at an employment agency. He gets approached by the Secret Service to double for the president at an event because the real president's a bit of a dick, and he wants to basically go and screw the intern from the White House. While he's doubling for the president, the actual president has a massive stroke, and so sets up the moment of the guy doubling for the president suddenly becomes the president, while the chief of staff has got evil machinations to try and take over the government. But what it ends up being is a freaking treasure of a movie.
It's so good. I was hoping I wasn't going to rewatch it and misremember how much I adore this movie and how good it makes you feel and how much it gives you hope. And I hate to sound super cheesy on this, but it really is just the sweetest movie. I'm like, I'm swelling up just thinking about it, boys.
Yeah. No.
Not in the way you think.
I wasn't.
That's for the next movie.
And I wasn't joking. I texted you guys the other day that apparently this is just a remake of Akira Kurosawa's Kagemusha, which I know we've all seen a million times. We're all super familiar. I don't need to rehash the plot with you all.
Please do, because the thing is, with your insane movie knowledge, Will, and your sense of humor, I couldn't tell if you were being serious or not.
No, the plot of Kagemusha is they find a peasant who looks exactly like the warlord, and they're like, "Oh my god, this is crazy! We could use him as a body double." And then the warlord is fatally wounded, and as he's dying, they're like, well, all right, if the warlord dies, we give up all our land, our property, and everything. So let's just make this identical guy the warlord." And it's like them literally trying to like play it off like, yep, see, everything's fine. We could still go to battle and stuff.
Love it.
And the hijinks aren't nearly as wacky. It's Kurosawa, so it's, it's a downer.
He only catches a fish this big.
Zing.
Yeah.
So basically, Dave just needed more samurais. It's kind of what you're saying. Let's also come to the podcast. Toto, the dog. That Will lives in LA, and his neighbors definitely don't look after their dog enough. And every now and again, he decides to become a star of our podcasts.
He's gonna find out that the neighbors are too busy listening to this podcast.
That's it. They think if they make their dog a star, they can finally get out of LA.
One day. I mean, they could be Grumpy Cat. You never know. Barky Dog. That's what they can be. But no. Okay, so we've got an absolute banger of a thriller. No Way Out. We've got an absolute banger of just a heartfelt movie with Dave. And the best part is Will was trying so hard to pick a highbrow. Like he was gonna go. He was definitely circling some movies, and I was like, dude, nah, man, do it. Go with your gut. What did you bring to the table? Come on.
I brought the action classic White House Down, stone cold classic, a totally unique and original movie.
The twister of White House.
Nothing else even similar came out in the same year. That's what everyone could say about the movie.
It definitely wasn't exactly the same plot as another movie that came out that year. But I tell you what, it is shit in the best ways. 2013, White House Down, directed by Roland Emmerich, who loves to destroy America on camera. He loves to blow out the White House, to the point there's even a reference to him blowing up the White House in this movie. Independence Day, the movie, exists in the universe of White House Down.
It's phenomenal. That's real filmmaking right there.
So much so that at that point, I know I'm jumping ahead, but when they're in the limousine and he's fumbling with the thing and he turns the TV on, I for sure thought, I was surprised that it didn't just show the Independence Day on the TV screen.
Yeah, that was honestly a moment that I felt disappointed as well.
Yeah.
Channing Tatum, Jamie Foxx as definitely not President Obama, Maggie Gyllenhaal, Jason Clarke, who I have to really get into later, has the most evil profile of any human being ever. He looks like a Disney villain. He almost looks like he's going to give me a poisoned apple. It's going to be fine. You know, he's definitely got that kind of face. Richard Jenkins, what a great Richard Jenkins character, and
I know.
James Woods playing James Woods while masturbating to this script. Let's be honest, it is.
Yeah,
James Woods is exceptional in this movie, like he is in any movie when he's playing a fucking asshole.
Yeah.
See John Carpenter's vampires.
It's just what is it, Casino. You know what I mean? It just get this guy to play a massive douche.
Total sleazeball. Yeah.
And he's like amazing. Give the guy an Oscar.
Yeah. And the only way I'm sure that they got him to sign on to this movie is they didn't show him the end. Like they were like, by the way, you're the villain, but in the twist, you win in the end. And he was probably like, yeah, that's great. It sounds fantastic.
Pinching his nipples and just like straight up, I've got it. Book this. I'll take it.
I get to say what?
Yeah.
I can't wait to talk on Twitter about this.
When he's like reading the script, he's like, I don't see any N-bombs in here. Can we add those back in?
Yeah.
Now, I'll tell you what, when it comes to this podcast, I very often try to order the movies in a way that kind of creates a flow to it. Sure. But you know what? In this particular case, there's no flow to find. The flow is all there in the movies. I'm just going to pick one at random. Let's just jump in. Let's go with White House Down. Let's just jump into White House Down. Watch that
best one. Let's do it.
Night. It's literally just take Die Hard, take Air Force One, and just shake it up in the middle and just throw it down. Bish bash bosh. You're done. That's the movie right there. But you know what? Who cares?
Yeah.
I would say the only step you left out is leave it on the shelf for 2 decades and then take it out.
This movie didn't hit for me as well as something like a Stone Cold. Like it did all of those things in a whisper. Like it was just adjacent to them. Like it had watched those movies and then tried to retread them from memory, and it just none of it felt. I don't know. I kept saying.
It's kind of like if the three of us were 12 and we were playing White House Down.
Yeah.
We totally nail the game, but it's not going to win any Oscars.
Yeah, it's just all the pieces it wasn't the sum of its parts. Like I didn't think the main cast was great together, and I don't know.
Yeah, I would agree with that. I definitely, we were talking about it. Definitely probably, needed I think I have nothing against Channing Tatum. But he was not, for me, quite the right guy for this part. No. And then Jamie Foxx also, I mean, we said it, Lance Reddick is right there.
Yeah, man.
Right.
And he's not the president. And that's just like, come on. What are we
no one would have gone to see this movie had it been Lance Reddick.
Right. Well, the thing is,
Lance Reddick.
I don't think anyone did.
You're right.
As legendary as Lance Reddick is, R.I.P. Lance, absolutely legend. Is that you got to sort of go back to this time. I remember, this is me. I was in LA when this movie was kind of being promoted. I was bouncing around trying to sign with an agent. I remember this.
You were auditioning for this movie.
Yes, I was auditioning for this movie. The posters were everywhere. But remember, this was the year of Channing Tatum. He had Magic Mike and he had 21 Jump Street, and everyone was like, wait a minute. This guy's actually very charming and very funny and quite self-deprecating. And he was like, in everything. Jamie Foxx as well, he's in his post-Oscar sort of vibe as well. When this came out, I remember that poster, I'm driving down into Hollywood from the hills. It's the whole side of a building was White House Down was being promoted everywhere. And granted, Will, you joked about it, but you're not wrong. It's it's a $150 million movie that made $200 million. So this movie was, by many definitions, not a success. But at the same time, it's so much fun.
and yet
I enjoy it.
And the other one, Olympus Has Fallen, came out. I don't know how much money that cost or how much it made, but they made 2 more of them. Yeah,
but the thing is, right? See, Olympus Has Fallen. I remember watching that, and I'm like, it's not got the fun. It's a bit more violent. Yeah. It's hard R. But then London Has Fallen, guys, that movie's a banger. Me and Mrs. Dude, it was on Netflix. We're like, do you want to let's just put it on. It's taken all the lessons of White House Down and put it into the Olympus Has Fallen universe. That second one, London Has Fallen, tight 90 minutes, absolute banger, great twist, awesome fun.
You had me at tight 90 minutes.
Could not more highly recommend that one. So to go back, Olympus Has Fallen, $70 million movie, made $170 million. So technically more successful.
Yeah. I think Gerard Butler still hasn't gotten paid for that one.
Yeah, right. I think he sued them, didn't he? It was like, God, I hate Hollywood accounting. That is one of those things that just drives me crazy. But let's get into White House Down. Now, the cool sort of little premise of it is that Channing Tatum, he is a Capitol policeman that looks after the Speaker of the House, who is Richard Jennings. And he's got himself an interview to become a Secret Service agent. Now, the cool thing about this, because in Die Hard, you've got a guy that's in over his head. Whereas in this one, Channing Tatum is a Silver Star winning 3 tours in Afghanistan, bit of a badass soldier. So when he gets into situations in the White House, you're like, okay, he knows what he's doing. But he's got a really grumpy teenage daughter who loves the White House more than anything. And honestly,
he loves the White House so much.
That's her Taylor Swift as the White House.
Yeah. It's insane how much this kid loves
for the White House and the president. She's a nerd. But then Mrs. and I were watching the movie last night, and in the first 10 minutes, Joey King, playing the 11-year-old daughter of Channing Tatum, is such a grumpy puss, is just calling him John, and I was like, as a dad, I go, you know what? Fuck it. I would have thrown the White House tickets out the fucking car. Like, you just sit in the car. I'm going in my job interview, you mouthy little cat. Like, it's outrageous.
Yeah.
Yeah. She was just that was felt a lot like, you know, an adult old man screenwriter being like, how are kids like? I don't know, they love the White House and calling parents by their first names, you know. Like God. That's their idea of rebelling. You know.
Yeah, it's what a fucking nerd.
But this movie does get going very quickly. So it kind of sets up that James Woods' last day of work, basically. He's retiring after being head of the presidential detail. He's very close with Maggie Gyllenhaal, who works for the Secret Service. And so while they are there, after their interview with Channing Tatum's interview with Maggie Gyllenhaal, is that they end up on a tour with one of my favorite characters as well, the tour guide character. Love that guy.
We're walking. I don't know. That's the movie. Sorry.
Bonnie,
yeah.
For 1 second, and Dave, is that while they are on a tour of the White House, they get separated because his daughter needs to go to the bathroom. And in that particular moment, the White House gets taken by a bunch of rogue audio guys.
But they look like the most insurrectionist terrorists. Again, weirdly prescient film. I think I wrote, this is just January 6th, the movie.
Yes, considering you got the crazy white supremacist right winger with his like,
they just look so villainous.
The white power tattoos and stuff.
It's crazy.
Were those even white power tattoos? Like, they were all just like nondescript, like enough to where, because this is PG-13, so I think this is one of like, make it look Iron Cross adjacent, but don't go full Iron Cross.
Yeah. It works, and he's got a terrible mustache, so you know he's definitely.
And I can relate to that. So
that guy plays one of the Nazi scumbags in the last season of Breaking Bad. He's the exact same character. The exact same character.
He does look like a bit of a Nazi scumbag. Yeah. And so begins this whole movie, which has got a kind of like an interesting twist. So James Woods, it turns out, is the bad guy. And what he's been doing as sort of like head of the Secret Service is kind of cherry picking from the threat matrix of people that want to hurt the president. Because essentially what he is angry about is, well, it looks like he's angry about his son dying in a black op that Jamie Foxx actually authorized. But no, it turns out he's just a massive racist and he wants to kill all the Muslims in the world.
It's just James Woods.
It's if James Woods had the power to do this, this is what James Woods would do.
It's almost like the casting director just scrolled through Twitter and found a who's who of real pieces of shit and then put them in this movie.
This is why he wasn't nominated for an actor, because you have to act if you're going to be in a movie.
And he thought it was a documentary.
Yeah.
But because you can't lie though, James Woods is
so good. Yeah, so good. Yeah.
Yeah.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a shame. I said, like, you know, with the one thing the world could use right now is somebody who can do a perfect Hades impression, so that we don't have to call on James Woods anymore.
You could have gotten like
Hades is so good.
You could have gotten like an Ed Harris in that role, and I think it would have been much like his turn in Geostorm.
Geostorm, yeah.
You know, like I know a movie we keep bringing up, but again, like the only thing that just it just felt substandard to me. It didn't even feel like a Roland Emmerich movie. It was probably his most grounded film, right?
I know what you mean. I mean, I could tell a lot of it was being shot on green screen.
Yeah,
you know, it was interesting for what it was and for when it was shot. You almost felt like it was a COVID movie because you not shooting outside. You can tell that's a green screen. You can tell this, that, and the other. So yeah, I know what you mean. Even the special effects level. Yeah. I think you texted on the thread. It's like, man, Dante's Peak.
Dante's Peak did it better. Yeah.
So
yeah,
it's just and this is like in the early infants, like 2000, because when Transformers came out, 2011.
Sooner than that, dude. Special effects were good enough to do good.
I know, but that's what I'm saying. It seems just so bland.
It was a little.
Yeah.
It was a little.
I don't quite, because I was watching it, you know, and noticing like, wow, some of this, you know, especially for a Roland Emmerich movie, I kind of wonder about that $150 million budget. I wonder how much of that went to, you know,
he's known for using
talent, and
he's known for using like miniatures and stuff. Yeah, and it didn't have any of that.
Even Independence Day, which is 94 or something, it's still like when you look at it, I think it's
so
that
much
sweet
better
spot I talk about, because they're using models and they're using CG. You know what I mean? It's like I think that's the best way. Is the combination. I think we as a podcast have decided that is the best way to go with anything. But outside of the CGI, which at times is sort of like, you're just like, well, all right, it just kicks off such a little romp inside of Channing Tatum. And, you know, at one point he manages to finally get himself down to the vest. Nice little Die Hard reference. You know what I mean? It's like, you know, and it's just this constant, it's kind of fun. It's Die Hard in the sense that, you know, they're trying to get out of the White House and can't. And at the same time, as you know, it's not like No Way Out levels, but there is a grand conspiracy going on that becomes clearer towards the end. But you almost feel like, I was watching you going, how much of this is reshoots with like, guys, we need to, you did it. Okay, you did it. Okay, give him a beeper and a mobile phone, and this is a movie done. Tick.
They just put it into the plot machine and just hit shuffle.
It was kind of, I think it just goes off the back that Channing Tatum's fun to watch.
He is, and he's just somehow completely uncharming in this movie.
Oh, I just disagree.
Yeah, I would say that. I would say like my issues kind of with his performance are more that I think he's charming. I do think he's funny. But like the strict action hero stuff is kind of like where he's like missing it a little bit.
He does dive around
too far off. I think he could have gotten there.
Well, I was going to say he's a good physical actor because he's a good dancer. Yeah. So he's like able to do stunts very well. And I think it just sometimes, I know what you mean here. Sometimes it felt like it was he's just doing a little 21 Jump Street. Yeah. It's like, are you me in the head with a bazooka?
I wish this would have been more of a 21 Jump Street and like really lean into kind of the comedic side of things and not take itself too. I mean, I get it. This movie has to take itself very seriously, but it just felt a little stilted to me. I don't know.
It's a combination of kind of like the wrong director and slightly off casting. You know, like if it had a different director attached, somebody who could like really. I think you had said Antoine Fuqua. I forget who I threw out.
Well, that's who directed. That's who directed. Antoine Fuqua directed the other White House movie. That was the joke.
But I think for this script he would have been better. I didn't
like a David Ayer
anything about Olympus Has Fallen.
A Tony Scott
way to put two policemen in a vehicle driving around the White House. He loves to have two cops in a car doing a
But see, I think that's the other thing too. Is we keep bringing up the Die Hard similarities. I think making Channing Tatum like, oh, he's got all these like, awards and he like a super soldier kind of like all these accommodations. I'm like, the reason why Die Hard worked is he was just a cop.
Yeah.
He wasn't a highly decorated, he wasn't former Marine. And I'm like, this movie needed that. Channing Tatum needed to be a guy, like a cop who's
That's
like just
slight
average.
Counterpoint though. Counterpoint is, had they done that, we'd all be like going, they've totally ripped off, Die Hard.
Instead of they tried to rip off Die Hard and like how is that better?
We'll sprinkle a little bit of like he's a good soldier in there. The other side is, he's not going up against thieves. He's going up against actual special forces guys as well.
Yeah.
So I'm going to say I liked the little silver star element. I'm going to counterpoint on that one, going, I like that.
I think it just bothers me. I think this could have been like a really great action movie, but you're right. It just came out in the wrong time period.
It is a really great action movie, and I watch it all the time. My wife and I love this movie for warts and all.
Listen, you convinced me on Battleship. You're not twisting me up on this one.
Oh, you know what? But that's different because Battleship is actually an amazing movie.
Yeah. Truth. No, I love this movie too, actually.
Why? But I love Battleship. I will defend that movie forever. And the thing is, but also look at the level of special effects on Battleship compared to this. Significantly different. Battleship's a banger. That's it.
Yeah, they've got battleships, man.
Got battleships.
This takes place in like a house.
I do
a nice
like
house.
That as soon as they kind of set up a little Air Force One scenario, they then managed to completely wipe that out by blowing
what the fuck?
one out of the air. And the thing is, first time I watched this movie, I was watching it on a plane.
Oh dear.
Very famously, I don't know if you know this, I mean, I do a lot of international travel and stuff like that, is that anytime, so I saw White House Down on a plane, I saw World War Z first time on a plane, both which involve explosions on planes and plane crashes. But when you watch it on a plane, so in this case, it's just, you see Air Force One, and then they go, oh my goodness, and then it just cuts to white, and then it's...
they don't show it.
No, they'll cut. It's something that... so basically aviation companies, airline companies will, if there's a movie with a plane crash or a plane explosion, they'll cut it completely out of the movie. So I had to wait.
That explains why the movie Flight makes no sense to me, because I watched that on an airplane. And it's just the last 30 minutes of the movie.
Alcoholic. Just
like this dude seems awesome. I don't know what the problem is.
Yeah, like you've never watched the movie Sully on a plane either. It's just a 15-minute just court case.
Yeah.
I tried watching Turbulence and it was just credits. Yeah. So I guess that's all there is to that movie.
But Snakes on a Plane, full on uncut directors.
It's actually the extended version on Flights.
More snakes, more tits. Yeah. But yeah, no, is that like, because we were joking, it's got that kind of like Air Force One-ian vibe, but then they go, we ain't Air Force One, because they do. That scene where they blow up Air Force One was pretty dope. I'm not going to lie.
I didn't see it coming.
The VFX actually on that's where I kind of think all the money went to, because I was watching that on my big screen. I'm like, wow, that looks good.
Legit. Yeah.
Everything else looked really bad, but like that looked great. So
that one scene was the whole budget for Money Plane.
Yeah. You're not going to get us to do Money Plane.
God damn it.
Everyone's talking Money Plane right now. I think I may have to Money Plane. We're going to figure out.
God.
But like, I think the scene that for me boils down what this movie is, how it sees itself and how it wants to be seen, is the scene when they get into the presidential limo. And they're just driving around, like, in the front lawn. The president, and a helicopter has broken protocol, and it's like, the president's hanging out the window with a rocket launcher, and you're just I'm like, yeah, you know what? I'm fully erect right now.
You mean when they snag the keys to Ground Force One?
Ground Force One, damn right.
Stop it. And just to be clear, that's 3 hours into this 90-minute movie.
That's the other, kind of shifting gears real quick. That is one of the flaws I think with this movie, is it is too long. It's not paced super great.
Yeah.
There's definitely scenes that could have been. I wouldn't cut out any scenes. I would just truncate some scenes.
Yeah, it's because it is just over 2 hours, long. Right? Yeah,
Yeah, and so it's too long for this kind of story. That's kind of one of the
it could have been tightened up. But again, I think that's also a product of it coming out in the mid 2000s instead of like 1990.
Oh, this is 2013. This isn't. Yeah.
Oh yeah, you know what I mean. Like,
I'm excited. You know what? Disagree. Make this an Amazon Prime 10-hour-long miniseries.
Yeah, if this was like a season of Reacher, sure,
yes,
I'm on board. But it's not that.
Where does season 2 of
Big
Reacher take place? We're gonna do all of season 2.
This does not have big Reacher energy.
I do. Have you seen the poster for Reacher season 2? It's like him just with his back facing camera, and it just says Reacher's back. It's like a literal.
Brilliant.
I was
5 stars, no notes.
Yeah.
No notes. Absolutely tick. Put that out there. Reacher's back. It's massive.
Can't see that on a huge skyscraper size billboard.
I tell you, I will give them credit. They have cast that character perfect.
They know who they're marketing to, and it's us on this podcast.
It's us, exactly.
Yeah.
Well, it's an hour-long way.
I love the marketing agency's like, oh, the ladies are going to love this. Nope, it's just 3 dudes on a podcast talking about Alan Richman's back.
3 straight guys. Like, give us more of that big meaty guy.
I'm into it. And it comes out on my birthday. I couldn't be more excited.
Yeah.
Happy birthday. I organized that for you, by the way. That's my gift for you. Let's for a second talk Jason Clarke. So Jason Clarke is playing some ex-Delta Force CIA operative that's got a big problem with the government. And the thing is, like, Jason Clarke, he's one of those actors that, like, he's Australian, isn't he? And he just sort of, he rocks up in stuff constantly. He ends up in a Planet of the Apes movie, and he's great. He ends up in, like, well, that F. Scott Fitzgerald, what's the most famous?
Terminator Genesis?
Yes. The
Classic F. Scott Fitzgerald novel.
Gerald, Terminator, classic, and absolutely.
It's the only thing I know him from.
He did Benjamin Button, then he did Terminator Genesis, as far as I understand. But Jason Clarke, he's great. He turns up in a bunch of, and he's a fantastic actor. And it's like, in this case, I mean, like, the thing is, though, if I was a Jason Clarke, and someone's like, do you want to do a Roland Emmerich blow up the White House action movie? I'd be like, yeah.
They stopped listening after a row, and I'm already signing the paperwork. But he's so good, but still to a fault. Like, what Die Hard and these movies do so well is that, like, the cavalcade of these henchmen all have such individual and unique, like, styles and personalities, and I feel like this one doesn't kind of have that. They're all just like generic racist white men.
The only
none of them really stood out.
Was Jimmy Simpson, who's the hacker.
Yes.
And he's making very specific character choices. He's got his lollipop. He's sarcastic. He's funny. He's kind of like, I'll give him credit. But you know what? I didn't even think about that, Ryan. Is it bang on? Yeah, it's just generic soldiers.
Yeah. And you have too many, like, because you have Jason Clarke and you have the other guy, but they're more or less playing the same kind of character.
Yeah. And then when when it comes out, the spoiler alert, big bad is actually Richard Jenkins, is the speaker. Yeah. He was a Russian spy the entire time. There you go. I hadn't seen it until you said it, but that's exactly right, is that everyone else is just generic bad guy. That's it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
This guy's...
And that can work, but I think I think it would have elevated a little bit more if there was just a little more depth there instead of guy wearing bulletproof vest waving machine gun, or guy waving machine gun with a bulletproof vest with a shirt on under it.
Oh, and don't forget the guy with a bulletproof vest, no shirt under it, and kind of white power tattoos. So, he's different.
Not like the other girls.
But we did have, like, I think I was texting it. So many of these movies this week had overlaps with other movies we've done on the podcast.
Yeah,
like the mum of Joey King was the teacher from Homeland, that Jason movie that I think we had from, was it Mississippi? And like A No Way Out was filled with people that we had. Like there was so many. This was one of there were callbacks to all previous episodes of the podcast.
Yeah,
we're gonna need to make like a 6 degrees of United States of a movie podcast, and it's just Richard Jenkins right in the middle.
Yeah, dude. 6 degrees of Richard Jenkins on this podcast. So outside like, what are some of the? Because I kind of, there's that bit where it's kind of fun that they think the president's dead, but he's not. So then the vice president's in charge, and you've kind of got all this kind of jockeying going on, and it kind of sets up I mean, which
Well, the vice president is sworn in and is then immediately blown up on the plane, like immediately.
He gets about 25 minutes of being president, and his assistant, who is like, it's literally the best day of his life kind of thing. He's just been trying to get this going. But it's like, it sets up almost the Rockian situation, which is Delta Force coming on the helicopters. I mean, did we not have, what was last week's movie that was basically The Rock the same? We had all the F-22s coming in. I can't even remember where we were.
No, that was this movie.
That was this. Oh, wait. This is this.
Yeah.
Yeah. I was about to say the only other movie I could think of was The Rock, which I just watched today.
Because we were just talking about it. The scene where Joey King's like waving the flag.
Yes,
because they
and
do
then the three planes,
which starts the countdown, and the helicopters all go wrong, and then they follow it up with the F-22s, and then they literally shot for shot rip off the ending of The Rock, and it's like, that's the thing. It's kind of like you were saying, Ryan, is they took all the things from all the banger movies, and they said, let's take let's take this. Air Force One, Die Hard, The Rock, and we'll put it all together.
It's like they did all that and then tried to build a movie around it.
Yeah,
like, try to kind of thread that needle. And again, I'm not saying it's a bad movie. This movie is just fine.
Well, it's not The Rock.
No,
it's not. Okay, no. It's not Air Force One. It's not Die Hard.
And it's such an original plot.
Yeah, but if you like those movies, you will enjoy this movie.
It's like a Sunday afternoon. Put it on like FX or TBS or whatever.
Right.
Like if this movie's on cable all the time, you're gonna watch it. It's like a perfectly watchable movie. And I honestly forgot that it was PG-13.
You bothered by commercials being in it?
No.
Because you're like, I'm gonna pop.
Because you know what, this movie needs to be longer.
Absolutely. It's one of those. I think it's held back by definitely the time period it came out in, which mid 2010s. So it's PG-13. There's no awesome squibs going on like anytime somebody gets shot. There's no real cursing or anything like that. So it feels a little toothless, like when you compare it to like what it's trying to mimic.
Yeah,
but for me, it's that they don't make movies like this anymore. So it's like when this movie came out, I was like, see, an action movie. I want more action movies like this.
But now, if they would have made this movie now and it had like a $70 million budget and it was just a smaller scale without all like the crazy CGI stuff, I
blood and some like yippee-ki-yay motherfucker.
Yeah, get like some squibs in there and just make it more grungy and rough. Like I maybe it wouldn't take place in the White House. I don't know, but I think it would be because I love movies like that. I love like 90s inspired action movies that just don't give a fuck.
Yeah, I mean, for me, you don't really notice. I mean, like fundamentally, the lack of blood, the lack of.
I didn't even think it was I didn't even know it was PG-13
until the end when James Woods gets from 5 feet away, takes 7 bullets from a minigun.
Yeah.
And he just falls over. I'm like, no, man, where is Paul Verhoeven when you need him?
Yeah.
Should have been like Ed 209 levels, opening of RoboCop, just a body.
Did Channing Tatum even have like a catchphrase at that point? Like,
I know. He didn't have a catchphrase, did he? It's just his daughter's like, get him. And he's like, look out.
Yeah. Insane. It's just huge missed opportunity. Just could have, what could have been his line there, you missed, because he's Red Mist or something. I don't know. He probably would not have done an Arnold thing or just
I don't know enough about
you look
Swiss,
to come up with and putting him through a whole full I don't know. Just something.
Second Amendment comes first.
There you go. Yeah.
Second Amendment comes after I do.
It's total schlock, and I love it. No,
but I wish it would have tipped more into schlock. That's it.
Yeah, maybe it could have done with it's exactly. You know what? There you go, Ryan. It's commit one way or the other.
Like, just lean into it. It felt like it was playing itself too safe.
Don't give us a bit of violence. Give us go one way and just kind of commit to it.
Just all squibs, all of it.
Yeah.
It is. Thing is though, if you're listening and you haven't listened to White House Down, it's like, you can't even spoil this movie. It's going to go exactly how you think it's going to go. I mean, I'll give them credit that they, for no reason, like the daughter is angry because her dad missed her competition the week before where she was flag twirling. And what is the way? How do we save America and the White House? Some flag twirling.
Well, I love the bit too where at the very beginning of the movie he has to persuade the White House aide who's like super wet for Channing Tatum. Like they have that real immediate chemistry. Like
you're talking about Richard Jenkins, right?
Yeah.
You're gonna love my stepkid. No, here's the thing, because he's trying to like finagle the two. He's like, my daughter really you don't understand. My daughter really fucking loves the White House.
Yeah,
can you get me 2 White House tickets?
Yeah, the assistant to the vice president.
And who, spoiler alert, gets blown up on the plane.
Yeah, they're funny enough because you're funny when you say that, because you know it's like she's like, okay, I'll give you the tickets, but you got to take me to dinner and you got to do that. And my wife goes, if you ever need to bribe me to fuck you, like
White House tickets, baby.
So yeah, even Zen was like, she was judging. She's like going, well...
like, is that how that works too? Is it like you have to get tickets to visit the White House, or do you just have to be in 6th grade?
Yeah, I don't think those are hot commodities. I think
I do love the bit where God, this kid sucks. This kid fucking sucks. So they're touring the White House prior to all the craziness going down, and who should happen to appear? President Jamie Foxx. And then the girl, she's like, hey, because she has a YouTube vlog, because of course she does.
No one calls it a vlog, Ryan.
John. What did you call it? It's a YouTube blog, right? Is that what they said?
YouTube channel. No one calls them a vlog anymore. Anyway, keep going.
No, but she asks him this incredibly poignant question.
Yeah.
And Jamie Foxx is just like, fuck. Just smack the camera. Take the camera away. Get her out of here.
Take her out. Kill her right now. She's dead.
Never happened.
I was watching it as well. And I used to work for Sony. I used to do a TV show sponsored by Sony. And so I'm very aware of how their tech works. And there's a whole bit in the movie where she quickly turns her phone on and immediately starts videoing. I'm like, that would have taken a minute and a half.
Yeah.
Like anything that she was trying to capture on video, they would have walked out of screen.
Oh, when she's precariously like filming over the thing, but she's peering over, and like you have that moment where the terrorist is walking away, but he hears something and he looks back and she's just like,
what kind of tween? Who has notification sounds on their phone? Are they out of their goddamn minds? That is
right.
The realistic part of the movie, right there.
Yeah.
Well, she was filming on a Microsoft Zune, so.
Yeah.
Again, it must have been the world's oldest man writing the script. Just like, so the phone has a camera, right? So you just press it on.
Just cigar typewriter.
It dings all the time. I get it.
How are we gonna say this guy? I don't know. We'll give him Abraham Lincoln's watch.
Get me James Woods.
Catch the bullet. Yeah.
Yeah.
Who's that guy from was that Michael J. Fox James Woods movie, The Hard Way? I quite enjoyed that movie. You guys never seen that movie? It's quite a good movie.
No.
Oh, The Hard Way. James Woods is like James Woods, but he's like a grizzled detective, and Michael J. Fox is the Hollywood star that has to learn how to be a grizzled detective in his movie. So he has to shadow James Woods. Ends up big action scene in Times Square, if I remember correctly, because there used to be a big billboard that used to blow like a smoke ring. It was like a cigarette.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, yes.
That's where the end of the movie happens, on one of those.
Famously from Superman, right?
The Hard Way.
The Shadow. That's where I know that sign from. Yeah.
Well, that sounds just like the movie with Robert De Niro and Eddie Murphy, where he's like an actor pretending to be a cop, so he's got a shadow Robert De Niro, who is a cop, and it does not go well.
What about Hollywood Homicide? Is that the same premise as
That's
well?
I think that might be it.
That is an old run. That is a well-worn premise.
Not unlike this movie.
Thank you. Exactly. Back into this movie is it is every single. I mean, like it goes back. So it was the spec script was purchased for $3 million in what the Hollywood Reporter called one of the biggest spec sales in quite a while. Which, to be honest,
that's massive.
It's much like they talk about that they sold like Showgirls was sold. It was written on like a napkin in a bar, and that was like $1 million script. But it's like this one was just literally they must have, much like you joke about Aliens with a dollar sign. This was literally just Die Hard plus this plus that
But in theory, it sounds like, in theory, all of it sounds so good and should work. It's just that it just falls flat. It just,
does it?
You know, like you said, like you said earlier, like if you haven't seen this movie, you have. Like it's just every other movie.
Yeah,
but it doesn't.
I wouldn't even be surprised if they purchased it for that much, because at some point they were thinking of turning it into like Die Hard 5.
Oh, for sure. Yeah.
Like because that was all, because like that was, I think every Die Hard sequel started off as something else,
Yeah,
and then they turned it into Die Hard.
Well,
so it would not shock me.
You give me Bruce Willis in this, it would have been a better film. But you know, we got that with Jerry Butts in the other one.
Ooh, yeah, no, and it
can't believe the same shit happened to the third guy thrice.
Actually, for life. I think they're making a fourth one.
A fourth Die Hard?
No, a fourth Olympus Has Fallen. I think there's another one coming.
Olympus
what else could fall?
Geostorm.
Yep.
Gonna merge them. That's what's happening.
Sky
I'm telling you, Jerry Butler, Jason Statham, and I don't care who else. Just get them in a movie together, and I'll, you know, Geostorm or not.
Yeah, Jason Statham can kick everybody. Jerry Butts can shoot everybody, and we can just
Well, they're making a sequel to the movie Plane, but it's just called Boat.
Yes,
right? That is actually true, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yep.
That's another one too that really felt like a 90s homage action thriller, but just felt just off. Just didn't really.
Didn't you go to the theater to see Plane?
I did see it in the theater. Yeah.
I
thought I was going to see Money Plane. I didn't think I was spending money on the movie Plane.
Okay,
oh, man.
You can imagine my disappointment.
To catch people up right now, if you haven't heard Money Plane, Google it. Just type it in. It's a ridiculous kind of premise of like some casino plane that's filled with sort of terrorists that's always flying. It's got like Kelsey Grammer in it. Yep. It's got a young Adam Driver, I do believe. It's got like he
plays the alligator.
But just look it up.
It's because
schlocky B movie that everyone's talking about.
Yeah, it's because John Oliver just featured it on his last episode of Last Week Tonight.
Oh, is that why everyone's talking? Because I'm like, I saw this like 2 years ago. Why is everybody talking about this now?
Anyway. But I'll tell you what. Let's just say to everybody at home, if you haven't watched House Down, watch it. It does. You know, it's
perfectly watchable.
It is a movie. Stuff, as my father-in-law likes to say, he likes to boil down any movie that he reviews, is stuff blows up real good. So if you like stuff blowing up real good, White House Down, it's the way to do it. But let's go from a by-the-numbers, cliche-ridden schlock fest of a movie. Let's go over to No Way Out. Let's talk about a thriller that honestly defines thrillers. It's got that 70s conspiracy feel. It's got that 90s kind of edge. It's a movie that is in many ways perfect, except for the most 80s score / songs that it otherwise would be like a timeless movie because it's made in the 80s.
I was saying that before you hopped on. I was talking to Will about it. I'm like, that's the only, like, if this had a different score, this would have been like an iconic classic. But the soundtrack is just so bizarre.
It is. It's kind of it's like we talked about almost doing it for Washington, like War Games has it's better though, but it's just got that feel. I will say that when there's the chases happening and he's running and there's lots of Tom Cruisian running in this movie. Credit to a very fit Kevin Costner.
Yeah, dude, he was doing all that shit.
Running upstairs and stuff like that.
Getting hit by cars.
Yeah, he did that for real. That is a for real stunt.
But he couldn't drive without his glasses.
But
that was the thing.
Yeah, this movie is an absolute banger. So I think I want to just go to you, Ryan, because you'd never seen it. I just talk us through your feeling, your reaction,
Yeah, I mean, this movie is the whole time I'm watching this movie, for some reason, it felt like such a 90s thriller, but I didn't realize it takes place it's like 87. Mm-hmm. So that kind of explains the music. Like it's right at that turning point where it's a little synthy, but just a bit off. It just didn't fit the tone of the film. It's like they took a soundtrack from a different movie and just kind of padded it with this one. But no, I was engaged from the start of this film. I love movies like this, and I can't believe I'd never seen it. And I think I said on the text, I think Sean Young is just the right kind of crazy. as she often is. But man, I love this thing. And you got Gene Hackman, man. You got the Hackman.
You can never get enough Gene Hackman. And
it's great. And I said
also,
even like
Kevin Costner kills it.
Oh, and Will Patton too. I'm like, I don't think I've ever seen him young. I'm like, from Will Patton from Gone in 60 Seconds.
Yeah, I always think of that.
But he's great, and it felt like if you were fans of the early season of House of Cards, this felt very much like that. Like you have the political higher up and his right hand goon who's kind of gay and just solves all his like crime for him, so he doesn't get his hands dirty. It's kind of got that, and it just kind of worked for me. I like that. It's good.
But it also, I mean, like, what I like about it being a Pentagon based thriller, is that, you know, because when you were the one that jumped on the text thread to go, oh, we got a phantom submarine here. Oh, here you're expecting some sort of like geopolitical thing. But this one is just like, no,
it's not that at all.
It is very much just on the surface of it. Kind of reminds me of this Clint Eastwood movie, Absolute Power, which I think is Gene Hackman again. Where it's based like, you know, guys, you know, in power, murdering a woman, trying to cover it up, and people kind of getting caught in the mix of, well, these people have got all the power. They've got the ability to direct, you know, agencies. They've got the ability to, you know, take away your rights as it is. And so just even on the general premise of this movie as it's presented to us, of this naval intelligence officer who falls in love with Sean Young, they meet at this thing, they have interesting limo sex, brilliantly pastiched in a movie we've talked about before, is Hot Shots Part 2. Is the the scene is ripped off in Hot Shots Part 2, where like the driver's constantly trying to get views and he gets gone and he's running alongside with
right. That's what oh my god, that scene went on a little longer. Like,
it does.
It went pretty long.
But it's like, while at the same time, like, you know, what he tells, like, show us all the monuments. So we do get a tour of Washington while Kevin Costner is
she, maybe I missed this, is she like a professional woman in this scenario? I know, like,
she's a kept woman.
Say that again?
She's a kept woman.
Because I know Gene Hackman, he's like, he's like, I'm paying for the apartment, and then
so he's like, she is the other woman, she is the mistress, she is like as much like Arizona, ASU is notorious for sugardaddy.com, right? He is her sugar daddy. And so
finally an analogy I can understand.
So essentially, it's like she mentions it, is that she is told to go to places. He likes to see her in public. So Gene Hackman likes to be with his wife and mingling with all the hoi polloi, but he likes to look over at the hot young thing that he's boning.
And it was jarring because, again, like, there's not a single twist in this movie that I expected, just because I kept getting caught off guard by like everything about it. Like when Kevin Costner's in the Philippines, and he's, you know, at a bar and it's getting rowdy, and he's on the phone. He calls her from the Philippines on a payphone with like a stack of quarters on there, and she's just in bed in heels, wearing like a full nightie and everything. I'm like, that seems strange. And she answers the phone, hangs it up, answers the phone, rips the thing out, and then just cuts to Gene Hackman in a bathrobe. I'm like, whoa, that's crazy.
That's
I didn't see that coming.
I've seen the movie before, right? And then I had the same thing, that it cuts to her and I go, who's just lying in bed in lingerie like that? I like that scene because his buddy's super drunk and he's throwing the coins at the prostitute.
And then he just rips the phone out of the wall.
That's my money. Go get it.
Very good drunk acting.
You get that sort of action scene mentioning the Philippines, that he goes off as a naval officer. He's very heroic. You get that kind of cool sort of action scene where he saves that guy, and that's what gets Gene Hackman's attention. And he kind of brings him in as his kind of like his naval intelligence he's just intelligence guy, basically. He's his Pentagon liaison. Now, of course, it's again presented as coincidence, but it's not so much. But Kevin Costner and Sean Young start having a relationship, and when they go away for a weekend, it makes Gene Hackman very jealous because he isn't able to find her. But Kevin Costner's getting jealous because he's feeling like the extra man, And there's this kind of moment where they see each other without seeing each other, but it's right before Gene Hackman accidentally, while at the same time being an abusive piece of shit, kills Sean Young by slapping her off the third story of this house. Very jarring moment, jarring death. But that's where it kind of sets up this great thriller kind of thing. Again, you're not seeing that's what the movie's going to be, but it's the Secretary of Defense has murdered someone.
Yeah. I really love the whole dynamic that Kevin Costner is investigating himself.
That's
like it's so cool.
Will Patton he's like, I'm going to fix this. And then the weird coincidence of the one guy they've got to run the investigation is also the one guy they're trying to pin the murder on. Brilliant premise. Brilliant.
And Kevin Costner's got his friend in the intelligence agency. They just like happen to know each other, and who's like really great at all this technology and stuff. He's like, hey, I need your help to find me this person, but don't help me that much. Don't like really take your time.
And much like we'll get into in a little bit later, but he doesn't happen to know him. We'll get into it later, but it's like, it seems like, oh, it's great coincidence that someone else that works at the Pentagon, who's very much involved in the technological side, just so happens to be someone that Kevin Costner's character has met and made friends with and has a relationship with, which he's able to, in this particular case, like Ryan's saying, is as the investigation's going on, there's this great bit, it's the ticking clock of, there's a moment when they're hanging out, Kevin Costner and Sean Young are hanging out, and she takes a Polaroid of him. And now he very quickly, jokingly takes it and destroys that Polaroid. Again, seemingly accidentally, but when you watch the movie a few times. But they find that negative, and you get that digital ticking clock of, it's always on the screen. He walks back into this naval sort of intelligence area, and it's slowly looking more and more like him, and it's just tension. You love it.
Yeah, that's great. Even the throwaway line where he's like, it looks like a baboon in the dark closet or something like that. And it's just the first picture that pops up is a actual baboon.
Good spot. Good point. But yeah, like, you and I, we were definitely waxing lyrical about this movie. I mean, like, from its filmmaking perspective, the way they've written it. I mean, just what do you feel about it?
It's one of those, like, just the entire movie. I didn't even have time to try to guess where it was going. I was just like so in the moment, so engaged, just like, and as the longer the investigation goes on, the more you're like, God, this could go off the rails like any second. And
it almost does like a bunch of times. Like, it gets really gets close.
So many close calls. And then when they start bringing in the people who saw him and Sean Young on vacation, and the one guy who's
the bellboy,
the whole boy in the colonial outfit, like, I guess,
just because there's no other way you would have remembered that character,
right? That's
and the big
great
fisherman
shorthand, but it's like they don't let this poor guy change.
The guy,
the big fisherman who's also helping them chase him through the hallways.
He's just dressed like a fisherman too. The thing is, I had the same reaction, but then when I actually step back and I think about the timeline of this movie, it only takes place over, like, for this last part is 2 days. This is like. They just got back from the date. She's immediately murdered. This is the next day. Like,
it's only 8. So it's not a crazy amount of time later. It's just funny that, like,
it does seem like it, though.
Because you show that scene in isolation to anybody, and they'll be like, "Why is an old school?
Why is he like a 1600s kind of like
a little Dutch boy.
Aristocrat? Like, what's going on?" But
back it up and like just give a little sort of like a flavor to what the guys are talking about right here, is that it does constantly keep adding the pressure on Kevin Costner. So as this picture is being developed that is going to reveal him to be the guy, that they've also then Gene Hackman's brought in a couple of wet guys, so mercenaries, essentially, former special forces, who are basically assassins who are there to basically, whoever's the guilty, inverted commas, guy, immediately find and kill, and then, wrap this kind of thing up. But then, of course, because they're trying to pin it on this guy, who they don't know who it is, that they're investigating, they've gone for this romantic weekend the weekend before, so they start bringing in the witnesses. So while Kevin Costner is investigating himself and marshaling the investigation, 2 witnesses are now in the Pentagon that he can't leave. and he's trying to avoid them at the same time. Brilliant.
I mean, all the once you really start adding up all the layers to this, it really is insane. Like this movie should fall apart at any moment. But you've also got, they found his DNA that he's then having to cross-reference to every new hire in the CIA, which is like something like 4,000 plus people. But it's cool because we got their blood type, so we'll narrow that down.
Yeah.
And then you've got, then they find the gift that Gene Hackman gave Sean Young's character, this little jewelry box, and you have to claim all the gifts that you get, the international gifts. So he's getting a list of all the gifts and he's finding out who gave it, and there's many things.
So then he leverages his friendship with his tech buddy to get that into the system. And what I like is it's right at the beginning of, wow, we can do that. And he goes, well, you know what we could do is we could interface. You know what I mean? It's like we can merge the computer.
Here's the thing, though. What is that?
But it's right. It's pre-internet. Yeah. But it's like, because internet came out of DARPA, came out of the Pentagon. So they've got technology that when we see it in this movie is like, whoa, it's the future, man.
It still kind of works though. It didn't
feel dated, does it?
Doesn't.
Right.
It really doesn't. I don't know why. It's just the charm of this movie.
The photo enhanced stuff, like you didn't see that in movies for a few more years. But today we're so used to it. So seeing it in this movie makes it not feel dated at all.
The most unrealistic thing is how quickly that printer can print, which is and doesn't jam once.
It was a dope.
Yes.
Do you remember using those printers because it had the things on the side that you can kind of peel off? It was loud and it took fucking forever. So
yeah.
Like he's looking through spools of paper just to find the name while the two guys are coming in. It's a really tense movie.
But it is. And it's because it's like I was saying, so you've got the ticking clock of that picture. You've got the ticking clock of these two witnesses wandering around the Pentagon. And then it's like when he realizes, because he's trying to help, Iman turns up in this movie. He's trying to save this witness. So you add in actual chases. And whenever he's there, he's running. He's only 2 feet ahead of these guys. You know what I mean? At all times, he's that close to getting caught. He's that close to losing for the whole movie. That's what I keep saying is the definitive thriller for me.
And you're forgetting too that this movie opens after all of that shit has happened.
Yes.
Like it opens with him being interrogated for this crime. So he gets caught. And then it just kind of then it's telling you the story, I guess. Like I forget the timeline. It's like a few weeks prior to this, right?
Initially it goes back 6 months to the very first time he meets him.
Right.
And then it's such a clever
thing to do for a movie at this time. Like start at the end and work your way back. I always love that.
At this point, if you are listening and you've have not seen No Way Out, pause and either watch the movie or fast forward until such point as we are talking about Dave. Because what we're now going to talk about is a part of the movie that is the cherry on top, that is the twist on the twist on the twist.
Yeah.
Because like you were saying, Ryan, the really clever part is it starts at the end, goes back to the beginning. But what it presents us at the end is the falseness, is the fallacy, is the cover that we don't then reveal until the very, very last 2 minutes of the movie, which Will and I were gushing. I mean, we were positively frothy about this, is that the reason it works is we, even as the audience, have been sold on his cover. They present him as something. But when spoiler alert, last warning, that it turns out that he is actually the Russian spy they're pretending to find. Because the reason that Gene Hackman is able to control this investigation is they lie and say, we're trying to find Yuri, this mythical Pentagon Russian spy. The massive, just complete coincidence of the whole thing is Kevin Costner actually is the Russian spy. That it's brilliant. So when
it was so absurd, I had to make sure I wasn't hallucinating. That's what they fucking did. It's crazy.
Absurd, but it's pure coincidence. It's not played out like anything else of like, when you go back and watch the movie again, as Kevin Costner is a Russian spy, every reaction he has to a situation is correct. Like sometimes you feel like he's overreacting, or sometimes you feel like, wow, he's so shook. It's because he's like, I can't fucking believe this is happening right now.
Yeah.
But when you as well, Will pointed out to me is like when you watch it, listen to everything he asks, the people he's asking questions, the paperwork he's requesting. It's all like get me a detailed discussion of American readiness in comparison to Russian readiness or whatever. It's like he's always being a spy. And it's always there in front of us, but you buy the cover. Brilliant. This movie.
It's really great.
Yeah.
Brilliant.
It's really good. Yeah.
Yeah. The movie gives you like no reason to think that he's a Russian spy at all.
It's such a Hail Mary that and it just fucking works, man. Like if you would have expected that in any way during the film, it would have completely fallen apart. Like
you get one clue. You get one clue. We're about an hour and 20 into the movie. He calls someone from the payphone in the Pentagon. He goes, "You know who it is?" He basically says, "Yeah, I'm in trouble. We need to meet." And like before you get a chance to even question that, you go, "Well, who was that on the phone?" He's almost caught by the witness, and the movie's off to the races again. That you forget that even happens.
I thought he was calling her roommate for some reason, because they just had that scene before.
He's calling his handler. He's calling his KGB handler.
He's calling Chelsea Handler.
You picked up his landlord. But it's wild that they give us that clue and just
you son of a bitch. Yeah. The landlord, man. Damn.
You're distracted by the movie again. It's I think
it's so good.
Yeah.
It only works because the whole idea of there being, Yuri, this, mythical Russian agent, is because once Gene Hackman has killed, Sean Young's character and they're trying to figure out what are we going to do, it's Will Patton who has the idea of like, oh, wait, so, we've been hearing about this like Russian agent guy, Yuri, we've codenamed him. Well, let's pin it on him. And, let's say we're investigating. We think he killed this girl. And that's why so it's a total like coincidence that it even comes up. And I think because they do that, had they set up in the movie that Gene Hackman's department is trying to find Yuri from the beginning, like that's what they're trying to do.
Yeah.
And then it's like, oh, he happened to kill this girl too. You would have been expecting something.
Right.
But because this is just a total, like, they're trying to put a Band-Aid on an open gushing wound, is why this twist works so well.
It's Will Patton's, like you're saying, Ryan, like sort of House of Cardsian play of like, if we make it a spy hunt, we can control the investigation, control the narrative, keep the CIA out, keep the FBI out. And it's like, it's only later in the movie that, like I said, the other, back in the days pre 9/11, you remember when all of the, FBI did their own thing, CIA did their own thing, NSA did their own thing. You know what I mean? They were like almost competitive. And it's like, it is honestly, for me, I know, but it's the perfect. It is. They've got it. They've nailed it because suddenly the FBI get involved. Suddenly the CIA are getting questioned. Like Kevin Costner gives a little clue to these guys, a little clue to that guy, and you're always on Kevin Costner's side because he's a guy that's like he's in a room and the water's getting higher and higher, and he's just keeping his nose in the water. And then when you get the final reveal of, oh no, wait, the guy speaks Russian. He goes, no, take it slowly. It's been a long time for me. You're like, wait a minute. Motherfucker.
He was a ghost the whole time. But even like for me, it's so funny because I've seen so many movies now. And I think to myself, I'm a little clever when it comes to this stuff. And you can usually see these breadcrumbs and spot the twist a mile away. I have a really bad habit of doing that just because I'm like, oh, I've seen this movie before. But that never happened once with this movie. I was just
Will and I were monitoring your texts, and
once
really
they were just texts about Brad Pitt being in this film.
In the background, in a party scene, Will and I both Googled it, and we're like, wait a minute, he's right. But that's something, Ryan, because you are very good at watching movies, and you're very good at you spot things, and you sometimes are hilariously cynical as well. And I was really intrigued to see, one, if you saw it coming, but also two, how you would react to it, the cherry. And like I said, as you've been showing,
I did like the Scooby-Doo ending. I was just fucking blown away by it. It just really it genuinely caught me by surprise. I think it's a testament. Like I usually, thanks to you, I usually try not to, for stuff like this, watch trailers or even go on IMDb just to see who's in it. Cause it's easy to spoil things, and I'm just so glad I didn't do that with this movie.
Yeah, it's fun. This is a great movie to go in blind. I mean, I was just even that opening shot. Did you notice that opening credits?
3 minutes long.
Yeah, of just like it goes from the White House past the sort of like the big one that looks like a big thing, like a big penis. Washington.
The Washington Monument.
There you go. And then past the Lincoln Monument, and it goes down, and it goes past the Pentagon, and then goes down this road, and then it settles on the house where this interrogation is happening. I'm like, God damn. Like, way to set like
really good
photography of this movie.
Yeah.
Yep. This is definitely in DC. Got me there.
Awesome. Like I say, a lot
really
of
good.
Do the same thing, but that is a one shot banger that I'm like, wow. Okay.
I don't want to say Dave stole the opening from this movie, but it's pretty close.
It's pretty close. And you know what? Let's do it.
All three of them do it actually. Doesn't White House Down also have like a DC flyby? I mean, every city's got to do that. It's like anything that takes place in New York, you got to go through this, or San Francisco, whatever.
It's because the president wants to do the thing in that you get.
When he said that, not to go back to that god awful movie, when he said that, I thought for sure they were just gonna land a helicopter in front of like a barbecue rib place, and he just walks in. But no, it's just a Lincoln Memorial flyby.
Another callback to.
And he's got that line. He's like, "Hey, did average?" She's like, "Yeah, man, you fucking say that all the time." It's just like, God damn, Maggie Gyllenhaal.
He wants to do the goddamn thing again. Yeah, okay, let's honestly, I could talk about No Way Out all day, all night, all week.
It's a good one.
Just
it's
even
a great
talking
pick.
about it makes me want to watch it again. It is never.
I can't wait till you said that last night. I'm like, seldom I'll watch a movie and then immediately watch it again. But now I really want to see it like through that lens of already knowing and kind of picking up on stuff that I missed. So I'm looking forward to a rewatch of that one.
Wild, because it is so subtle, but like you know that like Kevin Costner is playing it that way the whole time. It's like he is always in the mindset of I'm not this guy, I'm this guy playing this guy who's now in this situation, and he kills it, right? Well, like he kills it.
Yeah. He's the dude playing a dude disguised as another dude.
A twist that would make M. Night Shyamalan blush.
I know who I am. I'm a dude disguised as another dude. One of the best goddamn lines I've ever seen anyone do.
Definitely not racist at all.
But it's so good because it's definitely not racist. That's the best part about it. Like, Robert Downey Jr. was able to do blackface and make it like actually acceptable. Because it's ridiculous.
Because the joke is like he would only an idiot would do that.
Right.
You know, that's
He's method, man.
Yeah.
See it though in that moment, but in Tropic Thunder, for anyone that's wondering what we're talking about. But like you see Robert Downey Jr. almost crack up halfway through that line. I know who I am. I'm a dude, this guy's a dude playing another dude. And you see he almost loses it. I'm like, I love that. My missus has never made it past the panda scene of that movie. So she's never sleep when Ben Stiller is in the jungle and he kills the panda. In that like 5 minutes of things like momentum stopping, my missus, you look at every time. She's never seen the end. She doesn't remember the drug bit. She's never none of that. She's never seen the end.
So
of
she just thinks Tropic Thunder is that racist movie with Robert Downey Jr.
Yeah, and then they just murder a panda and then she falls asleep. She's still like, good movie.
To each their own.
But let's go. Let's segue. Let's move to the movie that made Ryan cry. Is the absolute treasure of a movie.
It's so sweet.
93's Dave. So Ryan, no, Will.
Will hasn't seen
your first watch, right?
It was my first watch, yes.
So Will, you take the floor. Tell us about your experience of Dave, what you thought it was, what you felt about it, your feelings about it, everything.
So based on the trailer, I was actually expecting something a little bit more wacky and I'm glad it wasn't that. It was much more sincere and heartfelt, and it was definitely very funny, but I was expecting something that was like a little bit more like hijinksy. And I was very pleasantly surprised because I think I've said it on here before. When comedies have super high budgets, they tend to lose me. And so the fact that this wasn't that kind of movie, like really, really worked. But it's one of those that really shows like Kevin Kline's like range as an actor. You can play an absolute, dick, and then the sweetest guy in the world, and you buy both like roles. And it's a shame we don't see, like, he still acts and stuff. I still see him in things, but he doesn't quite have the same career he did in the 90s. And I was telling you guys, my roommates, one of my roommates, Abel, saw him do a one-man Shakespeare show a few years back. And he's like, he's incredible. I've always felt like
I would watch him do a one-man Dave show.
Yeah, for real.
That bastard
I always
married
felt like
Phoebe Cates, man.
I couldn't believe
That guy
that.
locked down everybody's number one from the 80s. He got
That's why we don't see her in movies anymore.
no, exactly. She doesn't need to. She married Kevin Kline, and he's like,
Yeah.
where I got Phoebe Cates at home, lucky bastard.
Yeah,
I
but
know.
you've got like Fish Called Wanda, In and Out, this movie, A French Kiss to a lesser extent.
A fish.
I like French Kiss a lot. That's another.
I like that movie.
What's the other one?
Yeah.
Soap Dish. You ever seen Soap
Soap
Dish?
Dish, yeah.
He's
Soap Dish.
great.
He's great. He's great.
Wild Wild West.
He's the best part of that movie.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You say him doing a one-man show, that's what he's doing at the beginning of Soap Dish, but he's doing like, a Death of a Salesman, but he's doing it for like octogenarians in Florida at dinner theater.
Yeah.
But
he's the kind of actor I always felt like, and this is what the discussion I was having with my roommate yesterday, where I was like, he, as an actor, to me, he feels like he's the kind of actor who is doing what I think Kenneth Branagh thinks he's doing. Like I like Kenneth Branagh, but there's always something about him where I'm like, you're always making a choice. Like I can always see Kenneth Branagh acting. Like whereas Kevin Kline, I feel like goes that extra mile and like he just really becomes his character.
We talked about this on the last episode too. It's almost like how Tom Hanks can effortlessly do this wide range of like sincere and sweet and manic and angry and crazy, and it just kind of works under this bubble of Kevin Kline. Like it just works.
100%. I think what happened for the downside, I think that happened for Kenneth Branagh in a way is that when he landed, and he landed after doing Shakespearean sort of adaptations, that the industry, all like it's our new Laurence Olivier, he's the next great. And it's like, don't get me wrong, I love Kenneth Branagh. He's dope. But I think I understand what you're saying, Will, because I think that's kind of what happened. Whereas you've got the Tom Hanks, the Kevin Klines, who are just funny and have come through these roles, but then when they get into these more nuanced or these deeper roles, it's almost like whoa. Whereas like with Kenneth Branagh, you're always like, oh, he's supposed to be the new Laurence Olivier of his generation, right? So you're kind of like he's trying to kind of reach for that stars.
Feels like he's acting, yeah.
But Ryan, like great callback, to what we said about Tom Hanks, because I didn't think about it, but yeah, I mean, like, have you ever seen? I love this movie Inside Out, where Kevin Kline he's a high school teacher, and Matt Dillon.
In and Out.
In and Out.
Thank you.
Yeah.
In and Out.
Oh yeah, it's great.
Yeah, where he's like he gets outed as gay, or is he? And he's just so heartfelt and pure and funny and real, and that I think all comes together in one of the coolest movie characters ever, which is Dave, who is just a pure soul. So Will, keep going. You were surprised by it, and I know what you mean about the lack of hijinks. But when you started seeing, Sigourney Weaver, Frank Langella, Kevin Dunn, Ving Rhames, Ben King.
Oh my God, what a stacked cast!
Yeah, the cast in this is just absolutely insane. And Ving Rhames with hair, I said it to you guys. I don't like it. That's like seeing your teacher outside of school. You're just like, no, I don't want to see this. Like, stop it. I think, in a much lesser extent, from No Way Out, it was leaving me being like, how is this going to end up? Because everybody is technically breaking like the law right now in the biggest way. We now know there's no consequences if you're president to break the law. But back then we were all worried about it. So it was just like, you have, the Frank Langella like forging the president's signature and stuff. And you're like, all right, like Dave is very sweet and all that, but this is all extremely illegal.
He's got some real, like, what he's trying to do, because they've got the actual president in a coma. They've got Dave acting as the president. They've sent the vice president on some like 12-week tour of Africa. And they also hate him because he's like, because he's a Boy Scout, he's actually a good guy. And his whole thing is like, okay, we're going to kill the president. We're going to we're gonna kill the real president, wait for Dave to come in, he'll get like another brain aneurysm, we'll kick him out, and the vice president, he's gonna go Looney Tunes, and I'm gonna be president. It's crazy.
It's very Machiavellian, you know.
Yeah,
and it's like
it's an insane.
Is that what that is?
they're gonna pin on him, on the vice president, kind of what they were doing. So it's kind of like, that's the thing, is like when we'll mention it, you know, about an hour ago when we were talking about Dave, but is that it does have the controversy and the machinations and all that going on, but it's all just it's all just happening in the background of Dave just trying to get by and trying to do the right thing and then falling in love with the first lady.
I love that this movie doesn't portray him as like a complete buffoon where they have to like almost like
he's not a Leslie Nielsen.
Yes. But it was almost, so what's the Anne Hathaway movie where she has to be the Princess Diaries or something like
Dark
that?
Knight Rises.
Yes. Where they have to
Les Miserables.
Devil Wears Prada. Where they have to like really like they have that whole, they would have like a montage where they have to train him and he's got to memorize the speeches. This happens like immediately. He's just a genuinely good person who he like remembers everybody's name and knows what they do. There's that great bit where, you know, they're training at the conference table and he's trying to remember whose name is who. And then the next day he's like, isn't that right, Dan? He's like, oh shit. All right, sorry. He's over there. Like just little throwaway things, but he's so effortlessly charming in these. So
the thing, and it's a great little plot device, is that because he does double for the president for fun, that he has actually studied the president. So when like you know, when Frank Langella and Kevin Dunn are there trying to wonder if it's going to work, and he goes, no, you remember the speech? He goes, oh yeah, I read.
Oh my god!
And he holds the lectern and he starts doing the speech word for word, and that's when they both, oh, this is going to work, because this guy is actually, he's like you're saying, not he's not a bumbling idiot.
No.
He's actually a guy that just tries to help people. He is politically interested. And he, you know, and has actually, you know, he gets into like, no, that speech was great. So he understands in a way what's going on. He just doesn't understand how any of it works.
Because and he's also not corrupted by that,
by being
like
a politician.
By the politics, right?
Yeah, he's not a cynical Washington guy.
No.
So he looks at this opportunity as like, oh, well, we can actually do some good and stuff, and which blows the minds of everyone around.
Well, specifically Frank Langella, who's just a complete asshole.
He's an asshole.
Right.
But you see even Kevin Dunn's character is kind of like taken by him, who's like, oh my God, you took the time to memorize like the speech that I wrote. And the president, you know, the president never complimented him on his work. And you have this guy who looks like the president who's like, hey, that's a great speech, man.
Same thing with Ving Rhames. He's like, I will die for you. He is kind of
Ving Rhames, who has like, who says more with nothing than any other person. Like in this role, it's fantastic.
Since finishing, we watched all these movies, and I think I watched Dave last.
Me too.
The very first thing I then did is, for maybe the 7th time, is I went, I put on the pilot episode of The West Wing, because I was just in such a good mood. Anyway, so I'm 8 episodes into season 1. That's all I've been watching this week. But it's that same thing of like, oh, what if it was just, you know, good people trying to do good things?
Yeah. That's why I love Parks and Recreation so much, because, and they even on their podcast, they say like, we took so much from The West Wing, and we have writers from The West Wing and did that, but on a much smaller scale. So what if we have The West Wing in like this city in Pawnee, Indiana? And it's so sweet.
And I want to say, because West Wing is one of my favorite shows, you know, the show gets tagged with a lot of criticism of like, oh, it's, you know, it's super unrealistic and you know, it's kind of like liberal fantasy stuff. I get it. I understand it is. That's why I like it.
It's way accurate that it's become, again, with stuff that's happening nowadays. It's a little. I mean, the thing.
Watch it, because I'm like, I wish it was that.
That's why if you're so like disheartened and depressed and just miserable from watching the news, just put on Dave, man. Just put on Dave. It'll put a fucking smile on your face for a good 2 hours.
It's kind of like you were saying, like, is that about Dave's character being, you know, uncorrupted, is that it was the West Wing episode I was watching last night, which I think is episode 7, Mr. Willis of Ohio, where this guy he has a vote in Congress because his wife died. And so it's passed to him. And they're all caught off guard, where he's like going, oh, don't worry, you tell me everything. And like, no, you made the best argument. It's just someone uncorrupted
Right.
being put into a position of power. And that's what Dave is. And he's just this positive force who tries to realize that he's got this opportunity. Well, I guess maybe I can help. And then it's that moment where he realizes that what the other guys are doing are nefarious, but he's got the power because technically he's president, and it's right around that Sigourney Weaver figures out who he is. It's clever.
Right after she sees his dick.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Always jokes about that. Take a moment to like, is that the same penis? But he even like mentions it. I thought maybe she goes, no, not that.
Yeah.
But it was definitely his dick. Yeah. Yeah. Dave is hung.
Yeah. That was definitely her look. Was just like, oh.
She saw that dripping wet hog and she was hang on a minute.
It also doesn't help that he has a giant like Big Bird tattoo right up his thigh.
Yeah. They never like accounted for any of that stuff. And it's the first moment you realize, oh shit, like he's literally naked and he can't hide behind anything, you know?
Right.
And you have this whole tension, like the Sigourney Weaver and Billy Mitchell, they fucking hate each other as established. Like they show up in person and that's about it. They go their separate ways. They're in separate rooms. They're working on their own separate stuff.
But it's that commentary on the fakeness of politics. Is like, you know, he takes his dog and he takes his wife's hat.
He throws the
and
leash.
They walk in the White House. He throws the dogs away. They both go off in separate directions. And I think that it's like, but it's making the point without making the point, isn't it? It's just a fun movie to watch that's just sweet, but it's also going, you know, fuck politics and fuck Washington. And like, just maybe if we could just, you know, get through the bullshit.
We need a Dave, man.
Just need a goddamn Dave.
And he looks like, even Kevin Kline in this movie, just, and take this with whatever you want, but he just looks so presidential too. Like he's got like this.
I would vote for Kevin Kline. Yeah. If I could vote. I've never.
Plus he's banging the lady from Congo. Shout out to Laura Linney.
Yeah. Yeah, her part was smaller than I thought it was going to be. I was very surprised.
And Bonnie Hunt as well. Crew. We're walking.
We're walking. It's so funny. Like I still quote this movie and I like forget that it's from this movie.
Yeah.
And it's so good.
I think my favorite scene for me is where, so basically Sigourney Weaver's become intrigued by the president / Dave when he's being an actual nice person when they're at the homeless shelter for children. Very next moment is Frank Langella vetoes and just stamps and just takes away their funding. And that's kind of when Dave was like, summons him, you know, to the White House. What's going on? Why did you veto this? And Frank Langella is, one, don't ever send for me. Don't you ever send for me again. Yeah. But it's like his throwaway line is, if you can find 650 million, you know, fine. You can keep it. And then he calls his buddy
Charles Grodin.
Yeah, for like the dad from Beethoven,
America's favorite curmudgeon.
Yeah, great. But it's like it's that scene with the cabinet where it's the 100th cabinet meeting. All the cameras are there, and Dave takes advantage of this situation and just Daves it and just, well, I don't want to tell a little kid that they need to go and live on the street because we want someone to be, you know, feel comfortable about their car. Do you? No, Mr. President, I don't. And just that scene, I love it.
It's so good.
But I love it.
And he's going through each one of these, trying to cut stuff out of the budget. He's writing all this stuff down. And by the end of it, everyone is absolutely pumped. They're like, why haven't we been doing this the whole time?
Like even Kevin Dunn, he's like, this is awesome. Yeah. I love that bit. And he carry the one, you know, he's doing that whole, like he's doing math in his head kind of thing.
$657 million. The only one upset is Frank Langella because he's just a dick in this movie.
He's a treasure. A treasure. Will, was that you? Have you now got a crazy zombie next door?
So in addition to the dog, I was really wondering if you guys heard that.
Are you under martial law?
To the dog and the ghetto birds that fly overhead, there's also Le Pen guy. There's a guy who drives around in a van with a megaphone out of his car, and he's selling bread, but you hear "Pan Le Pen" like just, and it will come on randomly. We won't hear it. scares me every single time because he does it like right outside my door, and he's just driving slowly down the neighborhood.
Well,
So
Shout out to the bread guy. Have you
live in
tried this
Los
bread? It
Angeles-
sounds like it'd be amazing.
do you
I
live
bought bread from him before.
You
Yeah,
sure? It sounds like you live in the Los Angeles from the beginning of Demolition Man.
it's not far off. It is not far off. Let me
Are
tell
you
you, it's
in danger, Will? Blink if you're in danger.
Yeah.
it's we'll probably hear the 9 ice cream trucks come by before too long because they all, like every ice cream truck should, all 9 of them show up at the same time. You know, they don't stagger at all. They all show up exactly the same moment.
They're 100% selling cocaine out of this.
Oh yeah, because
See, when
I've
we
heard
were-
them at 11:30 at night. So
When we were kids,
yeah, a lot
when-
of ice cream customers.
When
at
we were kids
11:30.
riding around our bicycles, we would hear the faint whispers of the Mr. Softy ice cream thing, the da-na-na-na-na-na-na-na, but we could never quite catch it. Like we were always like a block behind or a block away, and it was like this ancient myth. Like you could hear it in the distance,
Ice cream of
this
eyes, isn't it?
siren's call, but you could just never get there, and it was just so
Man.
frustrating.
Move to
Even
South
if we
Central
could-
LA.
Even if we could, we never had any money, so it wouldn't have mattered. So we were just riding our bikes around because it was something to do.
Oh, you grew up in gangs in New York, did you? You're just like
Pretty much. Yeah.
urchins on the street. For those of you that don't know, we are a multi-state podcast. I'm in Texas. I'm in the middle of the country. Ryan is in Arizona. Will is in the ghettos of Los Angeles.
I'm literally in South Central. If you look up where did the 90s riots happen? That's where I live. I like my neighborhood a lot, but you know, it's right now we're recording in the evening, and that's when everybody comes by, screams "Pon La Pon" in their megaphones.
I just picture the
dogs go
neighborhood
off.
from Friday.
Yeah, you're 100% right.
Kinda
That
sounds
is
awesome.
what it is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That sounds fun. You must have great weed.
We sure do.
So back to Dave.
Yes.
So it kind of gets to that point of when, and it's again, like I love that you pointed it out, Will, because I didn't really think about it, but the lack of hijinks, the lack of him like scurrying or trying to hide behind something, you know, there's none of that. Because when Sigourney Weaver quite, you know, cleverly sort of figures out, all right, you're not my husband, who the hell are you? And he's like, I don't care about my husband, but I'd really like to know where he is right now. And it's that scene where they take him down to the basement, to the basement, through the security thing, and he's just in this.
The presidential cryo chamber.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's kind of dark. You know,
It's crazy.
it's dark
Yeah.
when you think about it.
Yeah. It's not played for laughs. It's not played for like, you know,
No.
like, oh, we've been hiding him behind, you know, all these statues. Like nothing
Yeah.
like that. It's very
I mean,
much like,
It's not Weekend at
here's your
Bernie's.
husband.
I was gonna say, listen, would this have been better as a Weekend at Bernie's adjacent film? Yes.
Weekend
of
at
course.
Bernie's 3, you know, in the White House. Yes. Sign me up. Let's make.
Honestly, I mean, it's gonna happen. It's gonna happen. It
But
might
it's-
already be happening.
But it sets up that kind of, and it's kind of, I think Will, you asked it right at the beginning, is when we were talking about this movie, is that it is still that movie is like, how are we gonna get out of this?
Yeah.
You know, because once it gets to that point, Dave fires Frank Langella, and it sort of sets up this whole thing where Frank Langella is now campaigning. He now basically outs Dave, but the president, for the actual wrongdoing that he was doing, which sets up this whole impeachment, which again, Will, did make me laugh that we're setting up like, oh, this is going to take down his presidency, and it's just stuff that's par for the course nowadays. It's like, oh, it's just a bit of money laundering and manipulation of like, you know, who cares?
It's almost cute nowadays. Like, oh, is that
Yeah.
all he did? All right, you know.
How many indictments? I
God,
will say
yeah.
it was crazy at the end of this movie when they're swearing in Sir Benjamin Kingsley as the president. He's the 45th president.
I
Did you
caught
catch
that too.
Oh,
I
wow.
caught that. I was like, oh, is he now?
That's crazy.
Holy.
And again, this was in 1993.
Yeah, I know. There must have been a lot of like presidential assassinations or something.
Every president kept dying, and they just had to find a double to kind of like it's like a multiplicity type of thing. Yeah,
Yeah.
We need to find a Dave lookalike.
This president died twice. This is
Yeah.
weird.
They're just whittling down. They get to Kenneth Branagh.
With 2 mustaches. But yeah, no, it kind of sets up that end where it suddenly it happens and you're like, oh, here we go. Because like where Dave gets up in front of Congress, and did you notice? Because I only noticed it on this watch, and I've seen the movie 100 times. But when it does the reverse, and you're looking at Congress, the first 10 rows are just that, and then it's just a movie screen. You can even see the screen. So it's projection for the rest of the thing. It was so weirdly obvious this time, and I'm like, how did I know?
I wasn't. I didn't catch that.
It was just one of those things of like, oh my god, it's just a screen.
Just another testament to why practical effects are better than CGI.
Boom, there you go, 100%.
Exactly.
But then it becomes that you suddenly piece it together, because just as Dave, as the president, takes responsibility, make sure everyone understands the vice president was innocent. And just as he's saying, maybe there's some moral.
My beautiful brain.
And he claps his perfect timing. But it's like sets up that whole thing of you then gonna get it revealed through the news. But it's like, after 5 months, the real president finally died. They swear in Ben Kingsley. Ben Kingsley says, I'm going to continue the path that the president chose, but that's Dave's thing of full employment. And then you're like, again, already you're like, well, nicely done. And then you get such a little bow, which is the whole Sigourney Weaver, Dave, Ving Rhames thing. But before I talk about that very quickly, is that little moment, I think my favorite little scene is when Dave and Sigourney Weaver, so Sigourney Weaver now knows she's like, the husband is kind of dead. And they sneak out and they go for a drive. And they get pulled over by the cops. And this has been referenced before, that right at the beginning of the movie, Dave has talked about, I was going to do my Club Med bit.
Yeah.
I got a comedy bit that he does as the president. And he gets pulled over by the cops. And correct me if I'm wrong, that's the cop is the guy that dies with the Wilhelm scream from Dante's Peak. Is the cop that's got him. Yeah. The guy that's the boss from Dante's Peak.
Oh, yeah.
With the torch. But it's that bit where he's doing the bit and he shines the torch in his eyes. He goes, I'm fine. And Sigourney Weaver starts singing. I mean, for you guys,
that's great.
You think about
good.
I love that scene.
I mean, that was super adorable. And it was just like, it was such a sweet moment. And, I like that moment. That's one of my favorites. I will say the moment I liked even more is towards the end when it's him and Ving Rhames in the ambulance.
Oh my god!
And he says like, "I would have taken a bullet for you." That's where I did get like, "Oh my god!"
It's great.
For me,
it was in when he goes to the homeless shelter and he's like, "They're just kids," and she goes, "Yeah, man, like kids can be homeless too," and it's like a lot of their parents are on the street. He singles out the little boy playing by himself, and I'm just like, oh my god! And he does the little magic trick, and he's like backs away the camera. It's so sweet. You can't help but fall in love with him as a person. Like
without ever hitting that thing that you like to talk about, Ryan, is that saccharine kind of like once it goes too far, it's just like, all right, now come on.
Because then after that, I think you get like the little vignette of him like campaigning, and just that's when he goes to the like the factory workers, and he does the famous fish thing, throws out the first pitch. Because it's established earlier that he's got the baseball glove and he plays baseball with the kids, and it just works. Everything about it.
This damn movie works so well. And then so it ends up with that, like, he at the very end is going into politics. He's going into local politics. The first lady turns up, and then that lovely reveal of like when they close the blinds, Ving Rhames comes and stands.
Now it's crazy to me to think though that he's going to start campaigning, and what are the chances he could become president again and people wouldn't just notice? Like, you look exactly like this person. It's crazy.
Glasses, man. You ever seen Superman? It works.
Yeah. He parts his hair on the other side.
Done.
But then also the whole Sigourney Weaver thing.
Yeah.
If you really boil that down, it's just fucking crazy.
It is.
Unless you're like, well, she's got a type. And she only fucks dudes who look like Kevin Kline. It like
perfectly understandable type.
That's the only thing that's like, on a second rewatch, I'm like, okay, maybe she's like remembering back to when she first met her husband, but he's not like, he just looks the same. It's crazy.
She sleeps with people that look like Kevin Kline, but she's accepted that different penises can happen. That so she's open to different penises. That's her thing. So
face has to be one thing, but everything else,
that's America's penis.
I want to see Dave too, where he's got to find a lookalike for him, and that like maybe the lookalike's evil. Ooh, there's the plot of Dave 2, right?
Evil
That was the
Dave.
best part. It was like, when they get pulled over and they're doing the song, and the cop he's like brings him and like, hey, you were good, but she needs some work. That was great.
I know. I know what I can do.
Yeah, so good. It's a
yeah.
perfect movie. This is a perfect movie. I know
Yeah.
we say it all the time. This to me, perfect movie.
This definitely goes on my list.
This
of
gets my
perfect
stamp.
movies.
Yeah.
Like
if you need like if you're feeling sick one day, this will be your chicken soup. This will make you feel good.
Bang, chicken soup for the soul. Yeah. In many ways, honestly, yeah, this is the perfect movie. But I use all of these movies to feel a certain way. Now, granted, White House Down is, it is what it is. But I watch it when I want to just have that kind of vibe. No Way Out is I want to watch an absolute top drawer thriller movie, and Dave is the chicken soup for the soul. But all three of these movies, right? They are DC. They are DC movies. They give us a tour of DC. They give us a vibe of DC, the positives, the negatives, the left and the right. Almost impossible. We need to now do what we do on this podcast, is pick one of these movies to represent DC. Guys, I am not capable of this situation. I don't even know where to begin. Does anybody want to try and pick up?
I was trying. I mean, now it's always in the forefront of my mind going into like each one of these movies, and sometimes I'm like, oh, I know this is winning for sure, and I'm always surprised. But it's DC is such a it's like you only get two genres with DC, and it's usually the taut thriller or the terrorist blockbuster. But then you get Dave, which kind of is just the only instance where you get like the sweeter side of like a West Wing type of feeling. Like you don't normally ever get that with a DC film.
Like, and one of my also rans, like The American President, which is basically just the long feature-length pilot.
Yeah,
The West Wing. Mm-hmm. It's like half the cast is the same.
Is that a Sorkin script?
Yeah. It is literally like so. A big plot of The American President is what is the virtue of a proportional response. That is the exact plot of episode 3 of West Wing. You've even got the president, Martin Sheen, playing the Leo character in the movie. It's like it literally.
Now let me ask you this:
it's just so weird to watch an American president in hindsight, just to be like, everything's off a little bit.
It's just not quite the West Wing.
Yeah, you watch Dave, and it just fucking works, man. You just let it go.
The thing is, right? Okay, let's try and okay. So White House Down. Okay, that definitely begins with a tour of Washington. We get all of the Senate and the White House and this, that, and the other. Now, okay, though it's all digital. There's almost nothing actually shot in DC, right? That's where I'm going to go with this one, is because opening shot of No Way Out is literally all of Washington.
Oh, yeah.
You literally, they even shot in the Pentagon.
Which is crazy. I couldn't believe they did that.
Yeah, because you're looking at how did they shoot this? Because it looks, but you realize they're shooting in the foyers and stuff like that. Okay, they're running down the street, so it's very, 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 very DC, as is Dave. Dave does some very DC stuff. Now, I'm going to say like another example, No Way Out, where Gene Hackman is having breakfast. He's sitting on the roof of a place where in the background you can see the Washington Monument and you can see the White House, and that's a real shot. Yeah. So my thing that I'm throwing out right now is because White House Down is so digital, everything's fake, probably shot in a nowhere near DC. That's going to be my. Can we eliminate that because of green screen?
So you're saying that because of all the fakeness, just like Washington D.C., it matches the spirit of Washington. Therefore, it is the best Washington D.C.
Cut that.
I agree.
Damn it, you will. Damn, because that's a great argument. So now you just made it harder. So White House Down's better.
I'm the James Woods of this podcast.
Damn it. I don't know. We'll edit this out later.
It's so. Again. So White House Down is just the diehard of it all. Okay, Dave is the optimistic side combined with the negative side, and then No Way Out feels, it's like it feels very 80s because it's Cold War and it's Russian spies, but it's very Pentagon. It's very political. It's very this senator. I mean, you got like that actor that is a real senator that turns up in movies. He always turns up in.
He's in Hunt for Red October too. He
Yeah.
ran for president. I know who you're talking about.
You know exactly. He turns up in everything. I'm sure.
James Madison.
But yeah, Fred Thompson. Okay.
Fred Thompson. Yeah.
You got Fred Thompson, actual guy. You know, and then but
you also get the real senators and Dave too.
That's right. So Dave has actual serving,
and you have Ben Stein cameo, who was the speechwriter for Nixon. Right?
Dave definitely had more old school politicians that I remember hating so much.
Yeah.
So that was like such a
even you had like
I hated that guy. I hated him.
The TV show host who was kind of like the Rush Limbaugh of that time on the TV. He was also, I think he was also in the Birdcage, like with Gene Hackman,
the McLaughlin group.
Yes.
Yeah. Oh, I hated all those people. It was fantastic.
Yeah. So so that's actually a really good point. That Dave. Ooh.
I do like to think that Gene Hackman is the same senator in this as he is in the Birdcage.
That's great.
Yeah.
For a second, let's jump on that, because when you get into the credits of Dave, there are a dozen, if not 20 people who are all playing themselves, and they are all actual Democrat, Republican congressmen. Like, they've got the actual Speaker of the House, they've got actual people from the news, they've got actual speechwriters playing themselves, talking about, ooh, is that how we do it, guys? Ooh.
But I will say, No Way Out does feature the real shopping mall from DC, which I've been to, and I bought a Superman comic there. So, also equally as good as having 20 real life politicians.
Did they use that mall in Minority Report as well? You know the bit.
Maybe I've not brushed up on my Minority.
Now
Report.
I think about it, because that was definitely a movie I was circling about, maybe bringing some sci-fi in for this week as well. I had lots of also runs. I can't wait to get back to DC.
Oh yeah,
so many DC movies.
Watching No Way Out made me feel like when I had taken a high school field trip to Washington DC, and we went to all the memorials. I don't think we didn't go to the Pentagon, we didn't go to the White House, but we went to like the Smithsonian, all that stuff. So it very much felt like a school trip to me in a way. I was like, oh shit. And like the National Mall, for example, like, oh yeah, I think I bought some flip-flops there or something. I don't know.
This is tricky. I mean, like, it's Dave or No Way Out. I'm gonna eliminate White House Down for just being hilariously ridiculous.
I want to give it to Dave just because of how it makes me feel. But man, I was so blown away. Callback to how good to how good No Way Out was. It's rare for me to see a movie that's from that time period that can still surprise me.
Yeah.
And this really knocked it out of the park. It's such a good in like the ilk of all of these DC political thrillers, because there are so many.
Well, just great spy thrillers.
Exactly.
Movies.
Yeah.
This
is like a movie my dad would love the book of.
Yeah. I mean, no shit. I mean, no joke though. I mean, No Way Out for me should be more regarded. I mean, I know it is. I know it's got great reviews. It's one of those movies that, it's surprising that Ryan hadn't seen.
Yeah. I'd be curious to see like what people think on your social media, because like whenever I talk to people about this podcast now, they're always like, oh, what state are you doing next? What movies are you doing? And going through these three movies, the only one people knew of was really White House Down.
Yeah. And that's
it. You've heard it here. It's White House.
It's great, but it's not Dave. It's not No Way Out. Okay.
I can be swayed either way. That's kind of
me too. So I'm like, right now, this is just out of anything, right? Ryan, instinctual, No Way Out or Dave? Just say Dave.
Yeah.
Will, No Way Out or Dave?
Yeah, Dave. I think the real actual politicians that I hate are putting it over the top.
I think I'm going Dave too. No Way Out. It's so good. No way.
Yeah.
Dave is just so much more realistic.
Okay. Oh no. Okay. All right. Well, can we all agree that No Way Out is an Absolute
It's
classic.
incredible.
Oh my God, it's awesome. I'm going to probably watch it again. Yeah.
For real.
Like, right when we're done.
Home. Honestly, Ryan, if you want to rewatch and do a live text of holy shit.
I do, but not tonight.
Because it's already late. Okay. All right. I mean, honestly, it's not a wrong. There's no real wrong answer to this one, but we're gonna land on the movie Dave, 1993's Dave, directed by Ivan Reitman, Kevin Kline, Sigourney Weaver, Frank Langella, and co. Is the official movie to best represent Washington, D.C. to the world for all time, or at least until such time as we bring more movies to the table. Speaking of more movies, what were some of the also rans? I know I've mentioned some of mine already. Another one that I was heavily circling is In the Line of Fire.
Yes, me too.
Oh, that was a good one.
I just watched it recently.
Another thriller that's just
just a great. It's a great Clint Eastwood movie that he didn't direct.
Did he not?
Yes.
Did he not?
Yeah, I think it was it Ron Howard did that?
No. It's the German guy. It's the guy that directed Das Boot.
Oh my God.
Oh,
Gus Van Sant?
Wolfgang Peterson.
Wolfgang Gus Van
Sant. Jan de Bont?
Wolfgang Peterson is the director of that one. So, fellas,
Werner Herzog?
are there also rants that I might be forgetting? We talked the American president, you know.
Yeah, I had a bunch. I was this close to picking All the President's Men.
Oh yeah.
I was very, very close, but also Wag the Dog was on there.
Oh, Wag the Dog!
I had another one that might be, maybe you guys know it. It's I'm pretty sure it's called My Fellow Americans with Jack Lemmon and where they're both like ex-presidents.
Yes. I just trying to like uncover. I'd never heard of it. It popped up.
It's so good,
and I watched it.
So good.
How have I never heard of this movie? This sounds great.
Yeah, it was another movie that was just like on cable all the time, but I remember it very fondly.
That's right.
But I don't know if like all because I think they're traveling like across the country to get back to DC to stop something from happening.
Yeah, because the current president is trying to do something in wrong, and so two ex-presidents are caught up in some conspiracy, but it's a comedy.
And it's basically The Odd Couple. I'm pretty sure Walter Matthau was supposed to be in it, but he had passed. I think.
Yeah.
So it's
James Garner, Jack Lemmon, and Dan Aykroyd. So it's James Garner and Jack Lemmon as a sort of pair.
It's good, man. It's good.
I'd never heard of it, and I'm like, I might want if that turns up on Netflix, I'll be watching that.
It's it's a good one.
Yeah. Lincoln was on my rans as well.
I see. Honestly, once I got Dave in my grip, I was like, that I had blinders on. That's all I could see.
Will was like, we can do Lincoln, we can do All the President's Men. I was like, well, White House Down? And you're like,
yeah. I was like, all right, yeah, well.
But I recommend Olympus Has Fallen, and I can go fuck myself.
All right, guys. So the only thing left to do is to decide where we're going next week. I finally decided to jump on the grenade, to address the massive elephant in the room, to jump on a state that, of course, has a gajillion movies and is the home state of Ryan Sandler. We are going to New York, guys.
I already have my pick. I already got it.
Good Lord. I don't even know where we're going to begin, but we are waiting 25 weeks to do this.
I'm surprised. I for sure thought you were going to save it for the finale.
I was like, let's do it. I mean, let's do it. Let's jump on. Let's go to New York because.
Oh man, I got a couple that I'm leaning towards.
Yeah. How are we gonna narrow this down?
I have a really bold choice, and it's kind of like how I've said to you guys that I often go with the movie that at the age of 12 or 11 I saw, and I go, yes, this is what
we can't all pick Secret of the Ooze.
You guys are going to love my choice. And it is actually one of my favorite movies and was one of the highest grossing movies of the year that it came out. You just wait. So, to everybody at home, as we have decided that Dave is the ultimate movie, we've also decided that you need to stop what you're doing right now and go and watch No Way Out. It's an absolute certified banger. But next week, we'll be heading to the state of New York. So, by all means, drop us a line and let us know what you think we should do. You can find me online as That Englishman in Texas. You can find me also as Ollie_Pettigrew. You can find us as a podcast on Facebook or on Reddit. Just look up United States of a Movie. You can find Will online as Entitled Willennial. And right now you can find Ryan and just look for the fun designs that he's put together for our podcast and also That Englishman in Texas and many things. Threadless.com/Rhino Digital, RYNO Digital. Last thing. Thank you so much for listening, for watching, for reaching out, for communicating. Do us a favor this week as a bit of homework. Tell somebody else about the podcast. Share it with us. Subscribe if you haven't already on YouTube. Hit the notifications if you haven't. Look down at the app you're listening on the phone right now. Rate, review, give us 5 stars. It really does help. But we really do want to grow this community because we love doing this podcast. Ryan, Will, guys. This was such a great week.
Oh man, this was a blast.
This
awesome.
It's gonna be.
This next one's gonna be tough. Oh man.
Yeah.
I'm gonna have to take a week off.
So we're gonna have to stretch, limber up, and come up with some great movie choices. But until that time, to everybody at home, thank you for watching. Thank you for listening to this episode of the United States of a Movie podcast.